Every Saturday at the zoo, Live-Wire Derrida, one episode at a time. Season 1 is Ghost. Presence is off the table. Not gonna happen. Okay? Not gonna happen. Once we've developed once we built our little deconstruction machine, reading a little Plato, one of the first things our deconstruction machine is gonna tell us is that presence is not gonna happen. It's not real. It just doesn't exist. So we don't want to presume presence is going to happen. This is the thing with deconstruction, and I say a priori a lot, and I do mean it, and a priori doesn't mean probably. But I could understand it be a little confusing, certainly, and it is confusing because if deconstruction's deconstructing truth, why am I so certain about stuff sometimes, and why does deconstruction seem to be? And the thing is, deconstruction never wants to. The a priori of deconstruction is the a priori of up to now and absent an unforeseeable event in a certain way. Or it is if something, even in the face of an unforeseeable event, would condition that event or change with that event, we can still say a priori. And we're not presuming in reading Plato that presence is off the table. We're not presuming that, but once we read a little Plato, we read a little Rousseau, we read a little Saussure, we're like, what's that? Hey, this writing stuff is always getting presence bullied, and this presence thing never happens. And we're learning all through all these examples, this presence thing doesn't happen, and we're learning how it necessarily can't happen. We form something like a synthetic a priori or an evental a priori. So that's what I say in my head. No one else says this, but just because to make sense of it, I say evental a priori to name a founded or empirically produced a priori. Something like this. I'm doing some work on Deleuze where I try to develop this idea of a priori dissynthesis, which is like escape velocity from a priori when stuff is true in principle, but gets deconstructed in fact. So Derrida will say messianic a priori. And whenever I say a priori doesn't mean probably, that's like a pseudo quote from Spectres of Marx, where he talks about the messianic. And he says, this is a general, absolutely universal structure of experience. It does not matter there's no, and he says, a priori doesn't mean probably. It means for sure. Sorry, that was an aside. Just that aside was just to think about, just so because we're going through this deconstruction of truth, deconstruction of presence, and we seem to be figuring stuff out. And so I just wanted to spend a moment thinking about how to, in the back of your mind, to think about what does it mean that we're figuring stuff out? We're building our deconstruction a priori machine. Okay, we're not assuming universally prior to encountering this stuff. And part of building that deconstruction a priori machine is being able to read and work through truth while both on the one hand needing to assume it and use it, and on the other hand, setting stuff in place for its deconstruction. Okay. But the idea, okay, I'll restart. At one, being present in its truth and in the presence of identity and the idea of its presence is doubled as soon as it appears. So you can't have appearance or presence without a doubling a priori. I think that video and photographs and visual medium, or even audio recording medium, can help with this because it's a little clearer than it is in the case with writing, but it's all the same. But if you think every voice is an echo, or if you think about it visually, thinking about it, there's if you think about visual things that trace like a ghosting effect, or if you think about a picture like having a hologram on itself, being doubled, being blurry. These are all examples that I use to try to think about this structure. It's basically if you put on 3D glasses, or if you think about 3D glasses, or you think about 3D things, so that's what I'm saying. You need to think fourth dimensionally here. There's a sort of, every moment, every present has a sort of added dimension, holographic dimension necessarily in its presentation and on whatever plane it's being presented. So I'm using a visual thing, but it would be just as much in terms of signification. Any truth that presents itself as identical needs this ghostly dissemination, this ghostly writing to get to you. And if you think, so one thing I have worked on a little bit is, so Deleuze talks about the crystal image, and this is not the exact same situation, but it's a useful analogy. And the analogy is, okay, so Deleuze is talking about basically images and presences in the context of Bergson and cinema. He talks in other cases, but basically Deleuze is, okay, we have in life and in cinema a series of images, right? We have a series of images, whether in cinema or normal mental life. And this will pay off, I promise. So just bear with me. Okay, cinema or normal mental life. So we have an image. Okay. What happens to the image after we don't see it? Does it stay present or does it pass away? And he's asking it can't simply stay present because then we wouldn't get a new image, right? We already said we had a series of images. It can't simply stay present or we couldn't get a new image, but it also can't pass away because the image that follows it has to follow it. Okay, it has to, otherwise the two images would never be in relation. So Deleuze's thinking of cinema is really all about this. Deleuze thinks cinema as the putting images into generalized relation with regularized spacing, frame rate. That's what frame rate is. So set for Deleuze, cinema begins when you say, okay, series of images, 24 images per second, and every image is generalized. But anyway, sorry, this syllogism, okay, this would be never in relation. So what do we have to say? An image is contemporaneous with its own passing away. So an image is contemporary, and so it is ghosted. Every presence is ghosted and is showing, I don't know, it's a cool image. It's like showing in Kung Fu stuff or coming with it. You go so fast that it's like you get that delay. Every presence is after affected presence. Presence is a ghost, and he is thy father's spirit. Like, comment, haunt, and subscribe.